Harry Potter enchanted millions with its rich world of magic, friendship, and courage, its beloved characters leaving an enduring imprint on audiences worldwide. Yet behind the wonder of Hogwarts, some of the saga's most gifted actors have left us, their lives cut short by illness and tragedy. Among them was Alan Rickman, whose unforgettable portrayal of Severus Snape remains one of cinema's most iconic performances. Robbie Coltrane as Rubeus Hagrid. Robbie Coltrane, born Anthony Robert Macmillan on March 30th, 1950 in Scotland, stepped into the role that would define his career and touch millions of hearts when he became Rubeus Hagrid, the gentle keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, in 2001 at the age of 51. With his untamed beard, kind eyes, and imposing stature, Coltrane's Hagrid became a beloved figure for generations of Harry Potter fans worldwide. Yet behind the warmth of that character was a man carrying deep, personal struggles. Coltrane spoke openly about his long battle with severe alcoholism. As fame brought increasing pressure, alcohol became both an escape and a destructive force, ultimately contributing to the breakdown of his marriage to Rona Gemmell, whom he had married in 1999. The couple separated just 4 years later. Though they remained connected as co-parents to their children, Coltrane never remarried. His health, too, deteriorated over time. Years of obesity and type 2 diabetes took a heavy toll, but the most devastating blow was chronic osteoarthritis, an excruciating condition that left him reliant on a wheelchair from 2019 onward. He once described the agony as constant, every day, not a single minute spared. Once a man who could disassemble an engine in 20 minutes, he eventually needed help with even the simplest movements. On October 14, 2022, Robbie Coltrane passed away at Forth Valley Royal Hospital in Scotland at the age of 72. His death certificate listed multiple organ failure caused by sepsis, pneumonia, and heart block, tragic outcomes of years of declining health. At the time of his passing, his net worth was estimated at around $4 million, a modest sum for a man whose unforgettable presence left a profound mark on cinema and in the hearts of countless fans. Maggie Smith as Minerva McGonagall. Dame Maggie Smith, born on December 28, 1934 in Ilford, Essex, stands as one of Britain's most revered icons of stage and screen. At the age of 67, she brought to life Professor Minerva McGonagall in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, 2001. With her tightly wound bun, sharp eyes, and commanding voice that seemed to carry effortlessly across any room, McGonagall was portrayed as Hogwarts's deputy headmistress, head of Gryffindor House, and Transfiguration Professor. Yet beneath that strict, unyielding exterior resided a heart full of compassion and quiet kindness. Smith's journey to legendary status was one of courage and perseverance, intertwined with moments of deep hardship. At just 16, she left school to pursue acting, stepping into the uncertain world of theater without formal training. Early in her career, during a 1964 production of Othello, she was famously slapped unconscious by the renowned Laurence Olivier. Rather than retreat, Smith returned to the stage beside him, proving her resilience and remarkable strength of spirit. That determination carried her to the heights of British theater, where she would ultimately be celebrated alongside greats like Judi Dench and Helen Mirren. Her personal battles were no less formidable. In 1988, Smith was diagnosed with Graves' disease, requiring radiation therapy and eye surgery. Nearly 2 decades later, in 2007, she faced breast cancer, which she overcame with characteristic grit while continuing to work. The death of her second husband, playwright Beverly Cross, in 1998, left her living alone, a solitude she acknowledged with quiet sorrow in an interview. "It seems rather meaningless to live alone with no one to share with." On September 27, 2024, Dame Maggie Smith passed away peacefully at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, surrounded by family. she was 89. Theaters across London's West End and Broadway dimmed their lights in tribute to her towering legacy. At the time of her passing, her estate was estimated at around $20 million, a modest figure for a woman whose brilliance illuminated generations of audiences. Alan Rickman as Severus Snape. Alan Sidney Patrick Rickman was born on February 21, 1946, in Acton, London. At 55, he assumed the role of Snape, a man who initially seemed bitter and antagonistic, but ultimately revealed a heart defined by love and sacrifice. Over the course of 10 years and 8 films, Rickman shaped Snape into a tragic figure of loyalty and redemption, forever changing how audiences viewed the character. Rickman's ability to capture Snape's depth was rooted in his own quiet struggles. At just 8 years old, he lost his father to cancer, leaving his mother to raise 4 children alone in poverty. Growing up in a public housing estate near Wormwood Scrubs prison, Rickman experienced a childhood marked by hardship and unspoken sacrifices, experiences that lent weight to his intense gaze and unmistakable voice. He kept his final battle private. In 2005, Rickman began treatment for prostate cancer. A decade later, following a minor stroke, he learned he had terminal pancreatic cancer. Choosing resilience over surrender, he continued to work, completing his last roles in Eye in the Sky and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Alan Rickman passed away on January 14, 2016, in London, just a month before turning 70. His ashes were entrusted to Rima Horton, the woman he had loved since he was 19 and quietly married in 2012, after more than 5 decades together. At his passing, his estate was valued at around $16 million, a modest sum for a man whose artistry touched countless lives. Through Severus Snape, Rickman left a legacy of profound emotion and complexity, a reminder that true love and sacrifice can endure long after the final curtain falls. Richard Harris as Albus Dumbledore. Richard St. John Harris, born on October 1, 1930 in Ireland, was the first actor to embody Professor Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films. At 71 years old, he began filming The Sorcerer's Stone, 2001, and The Chamber of Secrets, 2002, portraying Dumbledore with a quiet majesty and serene gravitas that made him unforgettable. Yet few realized that, even as he played the wise Hogwarts headmaster, Harris was already facing what would be the final battle of his life. During the 1960s and 70s, Harris was one of Britain's most charismatic yet rebellious film stars, renowned for his talent, good looks, and notorious drinking habits. Known to cause trouble, he was banned from several London pubs and even drank himself unconscious on a film set. Many directors refused to work with him. Harris once wryly remarked, "I'm not addicted to alcohol. I'm addicted to surviving it." Over his prolific career, he starred in classics such as This Sporting Life, Camelot, and The Field, the latter earning him an Academy Award nomination. Despite an estimated net worth of around $20 million, much of his fortune was squandered on drinking, women, and extravagant indulgences. In one infamous move, he even purchased an entire hotel in the Bahamas, simply so he could drink in solitude. Harris married actress Elizabeth Reese Williams in 1957, and the couple had 3 sons, among them Jared Harris, now widely acclaimed for his role in Chernobyl. Their marriage eventually fell apart due to Harris's hedonistic lifestyle and frequent absences from home. In 2002, shortly after completing his work on the second Harry Potter film, Harris was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. The illness advanced quickly, and just weeks after being hospitalized with pneumonia, he passed away on October 25, 2002, at the age of 72. His death stunned the cast and devastated fans, who mourned the loss of the actor whose dignified and soulful portrayal had defined Dumbledore for a generation. Michael Gambon would later take up the mantle, but Harris's version of the beloved headmaster remains an enduring memory. Helen McCrory as Narcissa Malfoy. Helen Elizabeth McCrory was born on August 17, 1968, in London. At 40 years old, she stepped into the Harry Potter saga in 2009 as Narcissa Malfoy, a proud, pure-blood witch and fiercely protective mother who ultimately defies Lord Voldemort to save her son. With her piercing gaze and controlled, elegant delivery, McCrory etched an unforgettable portrait of maternal love and quiet rebellion. Raised in an intellectual household, her father a diplomat and her mother a physiotherapist, Helen displayed independence and determination from a young age, even spending a year living alone in Italy before studying at the Drama Centre London. Her talent quickly flourished on stage and screen. She took on powerhouse roles such as Lady Macbeth, Medea, and Cherie Blair in The Queen. Yet it was her portrayal of Polly Gray in Peaky Blinders, calculating, commanding, and utterly magnetic, that cemented her as a feminist icon of modern television. Beyond her acclaimed career, Helen's greatest devotion was to her family. She married actor Damian Lewis in 2007, and together they raised 2 children, grounding their lives in love and privacy despite the demands of fame. In her final years, her remarkable strength was quietly tested. As Peaky Blinders prepared for its concluding season, Helen stepped away from the spotlight. On April 16, 2021, the world was stunned by the news of her passing from breast cancer at the age of 52. Her husband, Damian Lewis, movingly shared, "She didn't want her illness to define her. She wanted to be remembered for her work and her compassion." Even during treatment, she remained dedicated to philanthropy, donating over £1 million to the NHS amid the COVID-19 pandemic, a small part of her $25 million net worth. Her legacy lived on through archival footage in Peaky Blinders' final season and the animated film Charlotte, released posthumously, a final testament to a life of immense talent, generosity, and grace. Richard Griffiths as Vernon Dursley. Richard Thomas Griffiths was born on July 31, 1947, in North Yorkshire, England, and became widely recognized for his portrayal of the surly, wizard-hating Uncle Vernon Dursley in the Harry Potter films. At 54 years old, he stepped into the role for the first movie in 2001, bringing to life a character whose gruff demeanor, biting sarcasm, and imposing presence made him one of the franchise's most memorable, beloved, unpleasant figures. Yet behind the acclaimed performances and ever-cheerful public persona, Griffiths carried the burdens of a difficult childhood and lifelong health struggles. At the age of 8, he suffered from pituitary gland failure and underwent radiation therapy, a treatment that permanently slowed his metabolism and led to a lifetime battle with obesity. Despite becoming a celebrated actor, he was frequently typecast in comedic or heavy-set roles, a reality he accepted with quiet resilience. In 1973, Richard met Heather Gibson, the love of his life. They married in 1980, building a happy and enduring partnership despite never having children. Heather became the steady presence that grounded his demanding career. Griffiths' theatrical achievements were extraordinary. His performance as Hector in The History Boys earned him the rare distinction of winning the Tony Olivier Drama Desk and Outer Critics Circle Awards, cementing his status as one of the most respected stage actors of his generation. Beyond the theater, he appeared in numerous celebrated films, including Chariots of Fire, Gandhi, Sleepy Hollow, Hugo, and Pirates of the Caribbean. By the end of his life, his net worth was estimated at roughly $5 million, largely accrued through decades of acclaimed stage and screen work. Tragedy came suddenly. On March 28, 2013, Griffiths died at the age of 65 due to complications following heart surgery at University Hospital Coventry. His passing shocked colleagues and fans alike. Among those deeply affected was Daniel Radcliffe, who mourned the loss of a man he described as both mentor and friend, Michael Gambon, as Albus Dumbledore. Michael Gambon, born on October 19, 1940 in Dublin, Ireland, became the second actor to bring Albus Dumbledore to life in the Harry Potter films, stepping into the role after the death of Richard Harris. He first appeared as the wise and enigmatic Hogwarts headmaster in The Prisoner of Azkaban, 2004, at the age of 63, offering a portrayal that was both warm and incisive, earning the admiration of millions of fans worldwide. Before his Harry Potter fame, Gambon was celebrated as one of Britain's greatest stage actors. Personally invited by Laurence Olivier to join the National Theatre, he built an extraordinary career spanning hundreds of roles, from Shakespearean classics to the acclaimed TV drama The Singing Detective, which brought him international recognition. His dedication to his craft ultimately led to a net worth estimated at around $20 million at the time of his death. Yet, despite his success, Gambon gradually stepped away from public life. In 2015, he retired from theater, admitting that he could no longer memorize lines, a heartbreaking reality for such a gifted performer. His personal life was complex. Gambon married Anne Miller in 1962, and they had one son together. However, he also maintained a long-term relationship with Philippa Hart, a woman 25 years his junior, with whom he had 2 more children. The press once described him as the quiet gentleman of private storms, a nod to the contradictions in his otherwise discreet life. In his later years, Gambon's health declined sharply. He was frequently hospitalized for pneumonia and other age-related illnesses. On September 27, 2023, Sir Michael Gambon passed away in a hospital in Essex, England, after a severe bout of pneumonia. He was 82 years old and surrounded by loved ones at the time of his passing. John Hurt, as Garrick Ollivander. John Vincent Hurt was born on January 22, 1940, in Chesterfield, England. In 2001, at the age of 61, he stepped into the role of Garrick Ollivander, the enigmatic wand maker who guided Harry Potter in choosing his first wand. Hurt's portrayal carried an air of mystery and quiet power, making Ollivander one of the most memorable figures in the wizarding world. Behind the magic, however, Hurt's life was shaped by solitude and hardship. The son of a vicar and an engineer, he grew up in a strict English household. As a boy, he was shy, withdrawn, and a frequent target of bullying, retreating into films for comfort. His passion for acting eventually led him to train at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, where he began to shape the extraordinary career that lay ahead. Hurt's breakthrough came in the 1960s, and his intense, emotionally raw performances soon made him a standout talent. His iconic role in The Elephant Man, 1980, earned him an Oscar nomination and cemented his reputation for portraying characters marked by suffering and depth. He went on to deliver unforgettable performances in Alien, 1984, and V for Vendetta. Though his net worth was estimated at around $30 million, Hurt never lived extravagantly. His personal life was turbulent. He married 4 times, with only his final marriage to Anwen Reese Myers, enduring until his death. Friends described him as a brilliant artist, yet also a profoundly lonely man and a relentless chain smoker. A lifelong smoker, reportedly up to 60 cigarettes a day, Hurt was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2015. He announced remission the following year, but his health declined again soon after. On January 25, 2017, just 3 days after his 77th birthday, John Hurt passed away, leaving behind a legacy of haunting, powerful performances that had deeply impacted British cinema and audiences worldwide. Roger Lloyd Pack as Barty Crouch Sr. Roger Lloyd Pack, born on February 8, 1944 in Islington, London, left an unforgettable mark on audiences worldwide with his portrayal of Barty Crouch Sr. in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. At 60 years old, he embodied the stern ministry official whose unyielding sense of duty led him to imprison his own son, a performance as chilling as it was powerful. Behind the commanding presence on screen, however, was a man shaped by quiet hardship. The son of an actor father and a Jewish Austrian refugee mother, Roger grew up surrounded by art, yet shadowed by the lingering trauma of war. He once mused that he might have been a psychiatrist or a musician if life had not led him to acting, a reflection of his deep curiosity about the human condition. In Britain, he was best known for over 2 decades as Trigger in the beloved sitcom Only Fools and Horses. Yet few realized that beneath the laughter was a profoundly private and self-questioning soul who rarely sought the public eye. His personal life, too, bore its share of turbulence. His first marriage ended in divorce in 1972, and it was only later, after marrying writer Jehane Markham, that he found lasting stability. Together, they raised 4 children, including actress Emily Lloyd. Even in his final years, Roger remained dedicated to his craft, performing on stage and in television series such as Doctor Who, Law and Order, UK, and numerous Shakespearean productions. But in 2014, tragedy struck. On January 16th, just weeks before his 70th birthday, he died from pancreatic cancer. His funeral took place at St. Paul's Church in Covent Garden, a venue steeped in artistic history. Roger Lloyd Pack was laid to rest in Highgate East Cemetery among cultural icons like Karl Marx and George Eliot. His life, both luminous and quietly complex, left behind a legacy of performances that continue to resonate long after his passing. Robert Hardy as Cornelius Fudge. Timothy Sidney. Robert Hardy, born on October 29, 1925 in Cheltenham, England, joined the Harry Potter franchise in 2002 at the age of 77, portraying Cornelius Fudge, the insecure and power-driven minister for magic. With his shifty glances, uneasy demeanor, and self-preserving politics, Hardy's performance made Fudge a lasting symbol of cowardice in the face of truth. Away from the screen, Hardy's life was marked less by scandal than by quiet complexity, an existence steeped in history, intellect, and occasional self-doubt. Raised in an aristocratic academic household, he studied at Oxford, where he was taught by literary giants C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. Yet Hardy later admitted his studies suffered because he spent more time daydreaming than focusing on academics. He married twice and fathered 3 children, including journalist and humanitarian Justine Hardy, who has worked extensively in Kashmir. However, both marriages ended, and in his later years he lived alone, surrounded by towering stacks of history books, archery gear, and unfinished scripts. By the end of his life, his net worth was estimated to be around $10 million. In February 2013, while rehearsing yet another stage portrayal of Winston Churchill, a role he had performed more than 4 times, Hardy suffered a broken rib. The injury ultimately ended his stage career, marking his quiet exit from the spotlight. On August 3, 2017, Robert Hardy passed away at the age of 91 at Denville Hall, a retirement home for aging actors. His death closed the chapter on a life rich in artistry and intellect, leaving behind a legacy of nuanced performances that spanned stage, television, and film. Vern Troyer as Griphook. Vern Troyer was born on January 1, 1969 in Sturgis, Michigan. Though he stood just 81 centimeters tall, he left an indelible mark on the world. At 32 years old, he appeared in the very first Harry Potter film as Griphook, the goblin gatekeeper of Gringotts Bank. His brief yet memorable performance, marked by a sharp and knowing expression tinged with melancholy, mirrored a life that was anything but easy. Born with achondroplasia dwarfism, Vern grew up in a strict German Amish household, where he was never treated as fragile or different. From a young age, he carried out chores, feeding livestock, chopping wood, and working alongside his siblings. That tough upbringing instilled in him the resilience that would later define his career. He began in Hollywood far from the spotlight, working as a stunt double, including for the infant character in Baby's Day Out. Everything changed in 1999 when he portrayed Mini-Me in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, a role that catapulted him to international fame and turned him into a cultural phenomenon. Yet behind the fame, Vern battled deep struggles. He endured years of alcohol addiction, depression, and untreated mental health challenges. Hospitalizations became frequent, and in early April 2018, he was rushed to the hospital following a severe mental health crisis. This time, however, There was no recovery. On April 21st, 2018, Vern Troyer died at a Los Angeles hospital at just 49 years old. His death was ruled a suicide caused by alcohol poisoning. At the time, his net worth was estimated at around $3 million, a humble sum compared to the extraordinary fame he once knew. Vern's life was a powerful reminder that even those who bring joy to millions may quietly fight battles unseen. Dave Legeno as Fenrir Greyback. Dave Legeno was born on October 12, 1963, in Marylebone, London. At 45, he delivered a chilling performance as Fenrir Greyback, the brutal, feral werewolf of the Harry Potter saga, first appearing in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, 2009, and later in both parts of Deathly Hallows. With his imposing frame and fierce, untamed gaze, Legeno brought a terrifying realism to Greyback without relying on CGI. Before his Hollywood career, he was a professional MMA fighter and a master of multiple martial arts disciplines, including judo, boxing, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Among fighters, he was aptly nicknamed the Lone Wolf. That same solitary nature ultimately led to tragedy. In July 2014, while hiking alone through California's Death Valley, one of the hottest places on Earth, Legeno succumbed to heat stroke. His body was found 3 to 4 days later by fellow hikers. Dave Legeno was only 50 when he passed away, leaving behind a daughter and a grieving circle of friends and colleagues. On what would have been his 51st birthday, a memorial was held in his honor at Camden Underworld in London. His final film, Last Nights, was posthumously dedicated to his memory. Paul Grant as Goblin. Paul Grant, born on February 3, 1967, earned a small but memorable place in cinematic history when he portrayed a goblin in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, 2001, at the age of 39. His role may have been brief, yet he contributed to the magic of a world that captivated millions. Away from the spotlight, however, Grant's life was marked by hardship and loss. He spoke openly about his long battle with alcohol and drug addiction, habits that slowly consumed his career, relationships, and self-worth. In a candid interview, he admitted, "I lost everything: my career, my family, my dignity. I used to be a hero in my kids' eyes, and now I'm just a wandering addict." Although his appearance in Harry Potter briefly rekindled memories of his acting days, the return to the screen was short-lived. Financial instability and worsening mental health pushed him further into despair. He was often seen sleeping rough on the streets, relying on the charity of strangers, a tragic image that contrasted painfully with his past work in beloved franchises like Star Wars. On March 16, 2023, Paul Grant collapsed outside St. Pancras Station in London. 4 days later, he was pronounced dead at the age of 56. While the exact cause of death was never publicly disclosed, his family confirmed that he had been declared brain dead shortly after the incident, bringing a sorrowful end to a life overshadowed by addiction and isolation. The legacy of the Harry Potter cast endures, their work immortalized in the hearts of fans worldwide. Which of these magical characters holds a special place in your memory? Share your thoughts and keep the spirit of Hogwarts alive.